a small voice align my heart to hear you when my faith runs cold. Spirit, help me. Love's lone flame stir my soul, my compass when the road runs cold. Spirit, guide me. I'm running straight to you. When it's all I can do, I'm running straight to you. 'Cause you're my true north, yeah, yeah. East and west still call my name, but I offer the greater call. Jesus, lead me. I'm running straight to you. When it's all I can do, I'm running straight to you. My true north, I'm running straight to you. When it's all I can do, I'm running straight to you. My true north, I hear you calling me higher. I set on you, and when I walk through fire, I will not be moved. I hear you calling me higher. I set on you, and when I walk through fire, I will not be moved. I'm running straight to you. When it's all I can do, I'm running straight to you. My true north, sing it. I'm running straight to you. When it's all I can do, I'm running straight to you. My true north, yeah, yeah. You're my true north, yeah.
In this new series of 6-minute messages simply called The Importance Of, we're going to look at those things that will help us the most to grow in our faith, to know Christ, to go to the world and to show God's love. And I hope you find it helpful. In this 6-minute message, I want to talk about the importance of prayer. I don't know whether you've ever thought about this, but imagine a relationship where you never have any communication with the person that you are in relationship with. The truth is, it's no relationship at all, is it? If you don't communicate, if you don't speak, then there is no relationship. And yet too often, that's the situation that we can find ourselves in. You know, in this day and age, there's no excuse really, is it? There are so many opportunities to interact with those that we have friendship and relationship with. We can do it through our phone, we can do it through text, we can do it through email, we can do it through social media, we can even, dare I say it, do it face to face. And obviously face-to-face is always going to be the most effective way that we are to develop relationship, because you can see the subtle nuances in the communication. Not just the words that are being said, but the way that hands are being used, the facial cues that give us opportunity to understand what's going on. And you know, when God talks about David, he talks about him as his friend, a person that he spoke to face to face. And that's something really important for us to understand where prayer is concerned. Prayer is not something distant. It is not a hotline to heaven. It is not a supermarket that we go to when we are in crisis or in need with our shopping list in order to get what we want. It is about intimacy of relationship. James tells us that if we draw near to God, he will draw near to us. And so the reality is that if you want to develop the relationship, then you have to be in intimacy of communication. You have to communicate on a continual basis. And communication just doesn't mean speaking, does it? You know, if somebody speaks at you all the time, then that's no relationship at all, is it? It was interesting, I was walking up the hill from the station where I live, and as I was walking up the hill, there were a couple walking very slowly in front of me, an elderly couple, and she was doing all the talking. He was going, and she never let up. And when I drew behind them, he went, "Oh, sorry." And she said, "Oh, sorry, are we in your way?" And I said, "No, that's absolutely fine, don't worry." And they moved out of the way. And she said, "I'm guessing he's looking for a rest." And I said, "I can't honestly say I blame him." Now, she was talking about going up the hill. I was talking about the constant conversation going on in his ear. Because there was no room for communication. Conversation does not mean communication. And the fact that she was doing all the talking meant that there was no interaction taking place. And so it's really important when we think of prayer that we actually see it in both its guises. Communication is about speaking, but more importantly, it's about listening. Years ago, there used to be that little phrase, God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth for a purpose. And it reminds me of Job at the end of his book, after he's been through all the tragedy, all the travesty, all the troubles and the complications of his life, as he's listened to his human advisors. And then God draws near. And he says right at the end of the book, he says, "I thought I knew everything, and I've discovered I know nothing. Of those things that I knew, I should have kept silent, and of things that I don't know, I should also have kept silent." What is he saying? He's saying, I've got to listen more. And we're told, aren't we, in the Psalms, Psalm 46 verse 10, I think it is, "Be still and know that I am God." We are not given in our society the opportunity for stillness. We fill our lives with noise. You see young people today and they walk around with headphones on all the time, filling their minds with noise. We go into shops, there's noise. We go into our cars, we turn on the radio. We go into our houses, we turn on the TV. We give ourselves no chance to be still. And I am of the conviction that it is one of the wiles of the devil, that if he can keep us bombarded with white noise, then he will prevent us from hearing the still small voice of God. And that's the most important thing, isn't it? So it's really important that when we pray, yes, we speak, we bring to him our adoration, our confession, our thanksgiving and our supplication, the things that we need, we can ask for. And we are promised that when we know Jesus, when we walk in intimacy of relationship with him, when we're following his leading and his guiding, that he will answer our prayers powerfully, beyond the nth degree, more than we can possibly ask or even imagine. So why is prayer important? Prayer is important because it builds relationship. Prayer is important because it fosters intimacy. Prayer is important because it changes things in the world around us, but only for those who learn to listen and obey and speak less than they listen and learn to do what he says. I encourage you to make it your preoccupation to talk to God continually. Tell him about the big things. Tell him about the little things. Tell him about what you've done during the day. Tell him about the trivialities and get a sense of his smile upon you, because it will lift your burdens and it will help you to know him more, to grow in your faith and go to the world with real assurance and a conviction of his power and his presence. That's my 6-minute message. Hope you find it helpful, and I hope it encourages you to get into the prayer groove. Do you know there's nothing quite like praying with others? It encourages us, it stimulates us, it moves us on, it enables us to see how God works through the corporate body of Christ. And if you would like to join us for the corporate Zoom prayer meeting, it happens fortnightly, and just let me know and I will give you the information. Thanks for watching. Unlike other prayer slots in iChurch, on this occasion we're going to do something different. A piece of music will play in a moment that fits and dovetails into the message. And then there's going to be the opportunity in quietness for you to pray. And so I invite you to pause the video after the song and then reflect and pray and ask yourself.
Here we go again, my mind racing, and I can't seem to win. All these crazy thoughts and feelings, it's like it never ends until your voice breaks through my noise. And I know I'm not alone, not alone. You fight my battles if I'll just be still. Why would I keep running when you're right here? I'll just be quiet and let you speak through the silence. Here I am, no more hiding. You are in this moment, I won't fight it. I'll be quiet. I don't need to know what comes next. Tomorrow's in your hands. I can trust you with my future, 'cause you're already there. I hear your voice call me forward, and I know I'm not alone, not alone. Away with the distractions, I wanna hear what's true. The only words that matter, they come from you. I'll just be quiet and let you speak through the silence. Here I am, no more hiding. You are in this moment, I won't fight it. I'll be quiet. Be still and know that you are God. Still and know that you are God alone. Quiet, God, you're here in the silence. So here I am, no more hiding. You are in this moment, I won't fight it. I'll be quiet, I'll just be quiet. Oh God, you're here in the silence, I know. So here I am, no more hiding. You are in this moment, I won't fight it. I'll be quiet.
They recognized that I had a severe bacterial infection and medically induced a coma. I had presented in renal failure and septic shock. My kidneys and liver were shutting down. And my husband was told that I would not make it through the night.
Yeah, he was getting the word out. My wife might not make it. How much of you aware until you were told these things after?
I was aware of very little, except for one moment in which I knew I was about to die. And I knew that I was speaking to God. I could feel hot tears running down my face, and I asked him, please, God, don't take me now. We had worked so hard to build our family, and I wasn't ready, and I'm not ready is what I said to him, and that has so many levels of importance in it, doesn't it? I wasn't ready at all.
So what was that experience? Was it, You know, you're going towards the bright light, or?
I saw a white light that started off small and started to get larger. And really, it wasn't so much my focus as this overwhelming feeling that I was going to speak to God and I was going to beg him not to take me yet.
You come out of the coma, your wonderful husband Mark is standing over you. How did you process when he's telling you, Cindy, your hands and your feet had to be amputated?
At first, I was really taken back by the look of love in his eyes and how powerful it was. And when he said the words, I couldn't believe it. I couldn't understand how God could do this to me. How could he let this happen to me? And I entered what I call in the book the space in between, that moment in between trial and how we're going to overcome it. For me, that was a very difficult time. And I asked the question we always ask, why me? Why would you do this to me? And then I had to come to terms with that, to terms with how I would take care of my children without hands and feet. How would I take care of my family or do anything for myself? I had no idea what my future looked like. And God just spoke into me over and over again.
What was he saying? What were you feeling? Because I know you, while you were in the coma, you were having dreams too.
I
that
did.
Things were going to be great and you're fine. Now you're facing this reality and the Lord's speaking to you. So what was the impression that you were getting and how was he speaking to you?
Well, he spoke to me in different ways. He spoke to me when I cried out to him and said, how could you do this to me? My son doesn't even know who I am.
He's 3 months old.
3 months. And he said, you know what to do. You adopted. You know all about attachment parenting. You know what to do. And all I could see was these books about attachment parenting sitting on my side table at home. And I said, but how will I know when he knows who I am? And he said, you'll know the day you leave him. And he cries for you the way your daughter does.
Oh, wow.
It took 18 long months and many tears and heartbreak that I can't even describe for him to do that. But one day I walked across our front deck and he cried for me that exact way.
Wow. You're at the hospital. You're being told that your wife has to be put into a medically induced coma. I mean, you must have been in shock and stunned.
I was in shock, absolutely. I was going through the motions, if you will. I called our family and friends, the people closest to Cindy, to tell them to come to the hospital, that Cindy's dying, and you should be coming to say your goodbyes. They brought Cindy up to the ICU, and I was in the waiting room there, and it was completely quiet. I was the only one in the ICU waiting room, weirdly enough, and the only book that was in there was the Bible, sitting on a table beside me. And I reflected back upon my life, our lives together, and I thought, you know, I call myself a Christian. I've never read the Bible. I'm a hypocrite. I need to start reading the Bible. If I need God, it's right now. And so I started reading the Bible that day, and I have not stopped studying the Word since. 2.5 weeks into Cindy's coma, it was not looking good. The doctors every day were saying she's not going to make it. She's probably going to die today. They were real hope killers at that point, yeah, well, I know they try to be realistic, right?
But again, it seemed like, boy, they don't think she's going to make it.
No, it was not looking good. And I came home from the hospital one night, and we had family and friends at our place that were looking after my children and just helping out, and they're just so helpful. And one of my friends pulled me aside and said, Mark, you know, we've been talking, and we're not sure if you've thought about this, but you know, Cindy probably doesn't want to live. You know, you look at her hands and her feet, they're all black. They probably have to cut them off, amputate. The doctors say she probably has brain damage. You may want to think about pulling the plug. She may not want to live. And I never even thought of that.
That wasn't something that even crossed your mind?
It didn't cross my mind until that point. And it upset me. And I was like, you know, it's not my decision. I jumped back in my car, drove to the hospital, crying my eyes out. I went right into the ICU, and it was about midnight, and the nurses, you know, I said to them, I have to pray with my wife. And it was the first time I said a real honest prayer to God, and I went on my knees right beside Cindy in ICU. I said, God, I need to know if Cindy wants to live, if she wants to die, if she needs more time, if I should pull the plug. And I went home that night, went to bed. Next day, back at the hospital, having lunch with some friends, and my phone rang. and I let it go to voicemail. After lunch, I checked the voicemail. It was my mother-in-law, who had no idea the conversation I had with my friend the night before, or that I even was at the hospital the night before, and what I prayed. And she left me a message, and Barb said, "Mark, I'm supposed to leave you this message. I've heard voices all morning saying Cindy wants to live. She needs more time. Don't pull the plug." And I was supposed to leave you this message, so there it is. Goodbye, and she hung up.
Well, obviously, the Lord intervened. Cindy, you are brought out of the coma, and I think, to me, one of the most touching aspects of your book is when you look up and you see these kind, gentle eyes that's going to have to deliver some pretty difficult news to you. Tell me about that.
The intensity of love in Mark's eyes really took me back. I don't think I will ever forget it. It's the look of love that tells you where Jesus is in trial. And he looked down at me and said, "You've been very ill and they've had to amputate your hands and feet." And he proceeded to tell me we would get our lives back and that he loved me for my soul. And that was why he first fell in love with me.
So what is it when you're speaking to people, what do you tell them? And what would you tell people watching today that maybe it's not, loss of limbs, but a loss of somebody they loved, or sickness has, interfered in their life and their way that they're able to work and raise their family? What encouragement would you bring?
That life is going to bring trials, no matter what, loss of any type. But in that moment, that space in between, we have an opportunity to latch on to Jesus because he wants to carry it. He wants to take it for us. And just let him do that. Take a breath. Let him carry you. Let him take the pain and let him make something absolutely beautiful out of it.
Cry before you, and on our knees we pray. How long, oh Lord, how long? Our sorrows leave us weak and worn, surrounded by our fears. We look to heaven through feeble faith and tears. How long, oh Lord, how long? Till your glory fills our eyes, and our faith is turned to sight. Till our thirsty souls are satisfied. How long, oh Lord, how long? Our foes and enemies rejoice. Injustice seems to reign. Lord, we are shaken and we are losing strength. How long, oh Lord, how long? song. You bring new mercies with every rising sun. How long, oh Lord, how long, till your glory fills our eyes, and our faith is turned to sight, till our thirsty souls are satisfied. How long, oh